Because they were stupid. The seller sent an email and copied him by accident. And it happens all the time.
Really?
And unfortunately, you do the same thing. So, I mean, you fuck up. You copy them. Sometimes you even blind copy them by accident because you're trying to blind copy somebody else. You blind copy them, and then they know. I would rather you copy them. At least we know they know, as opposed to blind copy. Then we don't know, or I don't know. You know because it says on the bottom of the blind copy. So you guys make the same mistakes, unfortunately. Yeah.
What's the free cash flow on the business?
It's at the upper end of the about 4.2. 4.2 times EBITDA. So it's the bank is sweet spot is between 2.5 and 4.5. This deal is about 4.2.
What's as in Windows? What's the anticipated exit value?
Oh, well, we don't know. I mean, whatever the market says, but at least 5 times that.
Most of these facilities are operating at what, 60% capacity?
Something like that. 50.
Yeah, so if you merge a couple of them together,
yeah,
increase the capacity.
Yeah.
How much is that to do?
Plus, when you sell to a strategic, and or you take it public, just as the example that was given to you, he's buying them at 4, and the lowest end public company in the industry is at 19.6, call it 20. So he's buying them at 4, and they're in the public arena at 20. And these that you're buying at 2.5 to, let's call it 5, 2.5 to 5, to a strategic seller, they're paying 12, 14, 15. And in the public arena, they're 18 or 20.
In this deal, does he take the real estate as well?
Huh? In this deal, no. I don't believe there's any real estate in it.
How old is the business?
I think 5, 6 years old.
I never got what the industry was.
It's rehab, drug rehab. And everybody in drug rehab is a druggie, either currently still active with drugs or allegedly reformed.
Can you buy a drug rehab and buy a cannabis?
And a what?
And a cannabis thing?
Well, yeah, I guess you could, but you got to focus on one, not more than one. And he's there, boots on the ground, and and it's just like I told you how it works. We unplug the heater. That heater. And it's and it just happens we have one where tomorrow we are going to talk to the guy that just closed one. Takeaway questions or anything I can answer about what you just heard. Active.
What do you think he messed up with the board?
Lack of communication. We give you a template that shows you that you should be in contact with them every 3 to 6 weeks. You don't. I won't say nobody does that. Why don't you? Lazy? You're embarrassed because you haven't accomplished more? I mean, everybody, 100%. You too, Chinaman. You won't. And then once you miss one 3 to 6 week period, well, fuck, what do I tell them the next 3 to 6 weeks? And then when you finally send them after 5.5 months, 2 don't respond. Because they're gone. They said, adios, motherfucker. And he said 2 of them won't even notice. Because they haven't responded. 2 of them won't even, when he fires them, 2 won't even notice. Because he hasn't heard from them in 22 years.
But being in touch with them is not a formal board meeting.
No, it's just you got a template for this. Keeping you in the loop. This is what's happened in the last 5.5 weeks. Blah, 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 the bullshit. I don't mean bullshit, but I mean you tell them, and you don't tell them I made 1,100 cold calls, and I'm really, I'm missing my wife because I'm not. That's not what you put in the update. he put in the updates some information that's relatively germane to what you're doing. And, we've got these 5 new candidates. 3 really look good. And you also explained, in his particular case, the deal that cratered, why it cratered. These are the learning experiences or teaching points, or however you want to phrase it. And but the guys that are on the boards have done deals. They know every deal you start, you don't finish. They already know that. They know it better than you, but you're embarrassed to tell them. And then when there's lack of information, then they lose interest, and then they go on their merry way. And the partner, engagement partner, who's also engagement partner for 3 or 4 other deals of you kids, and he knows, and he swallowed fees already, 70 or 75 grand on the accounting side, and the lawyers, I don't know, 15, 20 grand. Call it 90, 100 grand, but they're operating. They're doing, otherwise nobody's going to get paid. Nobody's going to get paid. And at the end of the day, no matter what you think their internal model is, they realize if they stop, there's no chance to get paid. If one of the other big accounting firms takes over for them, I assure you, the other big accounting firm will make sure they never get paid. Or if another big law firm takes over, I'm sure that law firm is going to make sure that other law firm doesn't get paid. And they know that, so they have to, they may get thrown down off the horse, but they got to step back up and get in the saddle. And
should have gone through banks and targets quicker. Is that his whole point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this sale, when you asked him where'd you find it, he said the list, but then he cold called. That's how he got from the list. He cold called, and I remember in the weekly report and on the update, he says, "Strange enough, my 5th cold call and
Bing.
Yeah, Bing."
He stopped calling after that.
No. Yeah, he should still. Well, I know he hasn't called the last 2 or 3 days cold calls. He should never stop. But I know that the incoming. I mean, they're all running around there, all kind of shit, And plus, he's Navy. He and I are laughing about it because he's Navy. And when incoming comes on a battleship or a destroyer, it's normally a big fucking shell or a rocket. So incoming are big ones. So I'm sure, Tom, if you're cold calling the last 3 days, you email me tonight and tell me. But I would be surprised if he's cold calling right now. But he got it off of a cold call, off that list, the department of whatever he said. And it's not. I didn't know that they pinpoint on a map. I've never looked at any of this stuff, so I don't know. But it's not that difficult. But in that area that he's in, he said there's hundreds of them from Central California to San Diego. Hundreds. And across the country, there are thousands. And virtually everything, except for maybe cemeteries, everything that you're going to look at, there's thousands of. Thousands. And when you look at the industry, 5, 10, 15, maybe 25% of them have been consolidated over the last decades. Because they keep on springing up. Yeah.
So who's paying for these drug rehab things? Government?
Government.
Insurance.
Insurance, exactly.
Family, friends.
Family, fools, and friends. And because springs hope's eternal, maybe this time they'll get sober, or maybe this time. I've been down that fucking ugly road, believe me. I know what that feels like. And 16 years, clean and sober. Praise Allah. But there was a time I didn't think that he was ever going to get clean and sober. But the last 16, it'll be 17 years this June. Yeah.
But you said no real estate in the deal. Does that make any difference to us?
Oh, well, no. It does. It does, and of course the banks love the real estate, okay, because then they got another asset, okay, but it changes the EBITDA spread. It changes the value. I like not to have the real estate in your first deal, and normally, if you're buying a professional practice, an accounting practice, a dental practice, a vet practice, a chiropractic, blah, blah, the owner keeps that as their pension plan. They own the building, and you continue to pay rent, okay? So it's not easy, or it's not hard to convince them to even keep the real estate, even if it's part of the deal, because you're going to keep this $8,000 a month, this $11,000, whatever it is, and then then you're just a pure cash flow lending on the asset being the company. Yeah.
What are the gross margins here?
Huh?
Gross margins.
25 to 35. 25 to 35. Yep.
Just to go back to the cold calling.
It always gets back to the cold calling.
I'm just assuming it's the same.
Even in Sid and Perry Bassville, which is Fort Worth, Texas, for those of you that don't know.
The challenge in real estate, because it's all, making calls, and the cycle is simply you make the calls, you get the leads, you get busy working the leads. You stop making the calls.
Yeah, but that's why you have to continue to build the sales funnel of potential. And you don't know if they're prospects or suspects. You try to put just prospects in the funnel, but some of the suspects are going to leak in there. But as soon as you find the suspects, you toss them out. And so then you got just prospects that have the ability to buy. And a prospect, in your case, or in our case, isn't the ability to buy, it's the true desire to sell. And what he described, he sounds motivated, because he's got a problem someplace else. And all these guys, one of the things is because I had a lot of assets, I didn't have to sell something to fix something else. And most people have to sell something to fix something else. And that wasn't my problem. That's not Warren Buffett's problem. When you're still sitting down, a few $100 million in cash to a few $100 billion in cash, you don't have to sell something to fix something. You can just, send your team over there, whatever it costs. I had a question on YouTube. It's a misnomer. When we talk about private equity, venture capital, they are not putting equity up. They are borrowing money someplace else, taking debt. Now, I said this the first and second day, now even the Sri Lankan, the meathead over here, got it. They're taking money from over here banks, and they're putting it in your deal. It looks like equity, it smells like equity, but it's not fucking equity. It's debt that they borrowed to put in your deal. And then you're going to pay an interest rate on it. 8%. Yes, yeah. Pure equity is, I write a check for $10 million, no interest, here, go use it. That's not how those funds work. They put it in, and then on top of it, you have to pay an interest on it. Interest. So it's not equity. And so sometimes, I remember the first time this happened to me, I had set up with Barclays to put DEP in a deal. And then the few times that I did use private equity from time to time, very seldom, they go and they throw my deal away from Barclays and they get a new deal with Barclays. Actually at worse terms than I had, because they pay each other back. You did a deal with me, now I'm going to go deal. You're not supposed to do that, but they do it all the time. And so they paid 75 basis points higher than the deal that I negotiated, because they'd helped each other out. So he went back and did him a solid, and they even argue about fees and rates less than I do, because they know the most important thing in life is getting the money. The ability to get the money is the most, when you want the money, not when somebody else wants the money, when you want the money. So they don't argue. But again, I wanted to clarify that for the YouTube questions. But it's a normal misnomer. It's normally misunderstood. They think it's pure equity, and it's not. Anything else about Tom? Yes, sir.
If you have a situation where you make a cold call or you find out and you look into the business and the EBITDA is like low, it's 150, 100, something like that, because obviously this one's high, it's over $500,000. Is there a floor in which you say, okay, that's just too small, we're not going to do it?
Well, I mean, for a deal for $100,000, or I mean, it's not worth doing. But in the mid hundreds of thousands up, the deal's worth doing. In the mid hundreds of thousands up. In other words, you bought 5 beds is $450,000. That's the asking price. She brought up a very valid point. You know, it's they're asking for the moon, and if 450 is their moon shot, fuck, you might get it for 150. You might even get them to pay you. But I guarantee, if you don't ask them to pay you, nobody is ever going to pay you. That's a guarantee. And I'm Adelaide today just closed the biggest deal in Australia of our team guys in recent years, 6.6 million. Just signed up for the July seminar. 100% you paid because we don't give any fucking discounts. You can come to 300 seminars. You don't get a penny off. He signed up. He's coming in July to the seminar. And he just got rich. Default's a motherfucker. That's why we have a lot of repeats. And some slags coming. Female. And I don't know if it's an employee. Yep.
Yeah, so when you got that seller to give you $50,000 in working capital,
Yep.
is it a loan or?
No, I just told him deposit it. I just want 50 grand. I'm de-risking the deal even more.
So it's like a discount.
No, it's not, because we're not paying anything for it. They're paying us to take the business.
You'd rather pay that back?
But no. See, if you don't ask, you don't get. For those of you that have kinky sexual preferences, if you don't ask, you don't get. You know what I mean? You understand what I mean? Now, somehow, see, that also got, when I was in Hunan 10 years ago, that got the Chinese guys laughing too. They laughed at that. They thought that was funny. All of a sudden, I saw 200 smiles across their face. They understood that part. Again, in the infamous words of Bruce the Whipple, if you don't ask, you don't get. Not about the kinky sex, Bruce. I'm not talking about that, okay? Tell Pat, Pat's his wife. That's not what I meant, Pat. Okay, but I'm talking about if you don't ask, you don't get. And it's the same. And, you can, occasionally an outrageous offer will get the deal blown out of this and it'll never come back. But those are so few and far between, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Anything else? Any comments about Tom? Forget questions. It's exactly like I told you, though. And and when I tell the people, I mean, tell them the mistakes you made. Don't make it sound like it's paradise. But it's certainly almost like paradise. It's not exactly paradise, but if there's a heaven, I'm sure there's some shit up there that nobody knows about that they're not advertising. But I mean, on that happy note, when we go through the pearly gates, and we're not talking about the golden arches either for McDonald's. Okay, YouTube, thanks.